You know, there's few things in life that Ryan enjoys. Skateboarding, however, is one of them. Skateboarding is just, you know what I mean? Just up there, boy. God damn. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4. This is going to be my official review. A game that never happened, right? We think back to 2020, and I know, you know, we don't want to think 2020 because that was just one hell of an era. But in 2020, one of the few good things that happened was we got the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 remake, originally made by Vicarious Visions, who, you know, after the Activision Blizzard merger, were forced to shut down. And they were supposed to make Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4, but then, you know, that got scrapped after that, and it was a sad affair. And I remember being really bummed out about all that because, you know, I naturally assumed that because they did 1 and 2, that they're just going to continue the cycle of, you know, these remaking these old games. A lot of companies are doing remakes, right? So it just wasn't dumb. I don't think it was a dumb thing to think that it was just going to continue because, you know, it's an easy moneymaker. But yeah, it got shut down. Tony Hawk himself confirmed that, like, it wasn't the plan, but then once that merger happened, it just wasn't happening anymore. But then later on, Iron Galaxy picked up the project, 8 months of development, and then lo and behold, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 plus 4 is a reality. All right, delving into this game, I'm going to say one thing. When I started playing it and the title screen popped up, they were playing Kick Push by Lupe Fiasco, and tears were immediately brought to my eyes because, little known fact, when I was skateboarding back in the day, I was working on like a sponsor me tape kind of thing. This was right before like skateboarding on Instagram was what got you popping. And that song was going to be the song I was going to use. And, you know, eventually I got injured and the dream shattered and stopped. Didn't have to, but mentally I couldn't take it anymore. And, yeah, like I just couldn't believe that that's the song that greeted me to this game. So that was nice. I guess let's start with the roster. Let's talk roster. We got returning pros from the original 3 and 4. You know what I mean? A lot of them were in 1 and 2. And then, you know, we got returning new pros that were in 1 and 2. Like the new skaters in 1 and 2. They came back. And then we got new skaters in general here. And then we got some unlockable skaters. Let's start with the unlockable skaters, which you can go over to the secret shop to unlock, as well as gear for your created skater and those stupid effects you could put on your skateboard. I don't mess with any of that because I want my Tony Hawk experience to be authentic as possible. But that's there if you want it. But yeah, the unlockable skaters. Andy Anderson, who is this era's like Rodney Mullen. Even if you guys are like skateboard casual, just look up Andy Anderson. He does things on skateboards that like no one does. It's very nice to see. So Andy Anderson. Bam Margera is a secret unlockable skater. Jesus, that whole thing where he was like not in the game at all, and then last minute Tony Hawk was like, why is he not in the game? Get him in the game. And then they flew him out and they did a quick, you know, mocap thing on him, and like then he was in the game. And I get, you know, Bam's had some turbulent years, and thank God, like now he's good. It seems like I see him on Instagram. He's skateboarding. He looks as healthy and happy as ever, and that's great. So I get maybe that's why they didn't originally think to put him in or whatever it is, but like I'm just glad Tony Hawk made the call, like, no, get him in the game, because Bam was the original. He's the reason why Pro Skater 3 sold as well as it did, because, you know, at the time CKY, Jackass, all that stuff, that was popping off at the time, and Bam was a big driver in sales for that. You know, you had Tony Hawk and you had Bam. That was all you needed really in that game. Like everybody else was a bonus. So, you know, I'm glad to see Bam is here in some way, shape, or form. I don't think, you know, it should have ever been questioned, but whatever, he's here. Then you got Michelangelo, the Ninja Turtle. You got Birdman. You got Officer Dick, who is Jack Black. You got Doomslayer and Revenant. The Doomslayer stuff kind of pisses me off because he was an unlockable character back in Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3, but here they're making him paid DLC along with the Revenant, and I just think that's a business practice that I am not a fan of when it comes to modern video games, but it is what it is. So yeah, you can get all these guys in the secret shop, which you can also go there for cheats. Cheats are back. That's a nostalgia play. I commend them for that. You don't see cheats in video games anymore. Yeah, let's talk about levels, man. Let's talk about levels. A lot of classic levels here. The cruise ship. What else we got? The cruise ship. Oh man, I'm blanking on the names right now. What's the prison one? You know the prison one? All right, I got a list of the levels in front of me because I am drawing complete blanks right now. So let's talk about my favorites. Yeah, but these levels in general, they're classics in the series, like the Foundry in Pro Skater 3. Canada was one of my favorites growing up. The airport, right? The airport level was incredible, man. Like, the airport level made me want to do that in real life, where I wanted to skate in an airport. And you see Red Bull do that. They go into abandoned airports all the time, paying homage to this very thing here, which is incredible. And then you got the cruise ship level, which is the secret level of the game. And I love the cruise ship level. I liked it back then, but I also like it now. I think the way they did it now is pretty cool. And then, over in the Pro Skater 4 levels, College is a classic. San Fran is a classic. Alcatraz was the stupid prison level I was trying to think of before. And, the London level was cool. Then you got the 2 new levels that they introduced, which I thought were bangers, man. The water park was incredible. I really enjoyed the water park. I'm not gonna lie to you. And then you got the pinball level, which is what you got at the end. And damn, the pinball level was really cool. It came with a giant Tony Hawk that was playing the pinball machine that you are in. And the way they integrated, pinball stuff into the skating, it was actually really cool. I enjoyed that quite a bit. That was awesome. The levels, they do have modern upgrades though. They all look fantastic. These levels look like how you pictured the game in your mind 20 years ago. You know what I mean? Or more than 20, 23. God, it's 2025. When you think of the nostalgia, when you got the nostalgia goggles and the rose tinted glasses, the way you think of it, sometimes it doesn't pan out the way you're thinking of it. But when you play this remake, God, you can. It just looks incredible. It's how you remember it, literally. There are a few differences. Like the zoo and Kona levels are now just competition levels, so that's a big change from what they used to be. London is now at night, okay? And Suburbia, they made it as a Halloween theme, so a lot of spooky stuff going on, and houses have pumpkins on them. I think it's a harmless change. It's an inspired change. I don't know. I find it's not offensive. It's just okay, I guess. No reason to it, but cool. Take a bit of creative freedom. That's fine here. I think the levels are all fine though. I honestly, at the end of the day, I thought the levels are all good. Even the ones that were changed into competition levels, the new ones, I thought from the beginning to end, I had fun in pretty much every level. Some of them had annoying things. I wasn't a big fan of which one was the one? Skater Island. I didn't care for Skater Island, I'm not gonna lie. Skater Island was kind of but again, I still had a good time when I was in it. You know what I mean? It is what it is. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. We gotta talk about the elephant in the room. Let's talk about the layout of these games. So Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3. The reason why I think it's I didn't say this yet, but I do think it is a better remake than Pro Skater 4. When it comes to the 3 portion of this package, I think it's pretty awesome. I don't have much to complain about. No, there's little differences. There's no guy taking a leak in the Canada level. He's gone, but I guess it should have been there. It should have been there. I'm not gonna say it shouldn't have. But again, nothing crazy, right? No crazy differences. But when you go to Pro Skater 4, there's a lot of jarring differences. But with Pro Skater 3, it was still on a 2-minute run timer. You still had 2 minutes to do everything on the course. Everything was still introduced in a list. It was the same structure and mechanics as Pro Skater 1 and 2, right? And I think that's fine. That's classic. That's the way it should be. That's the way it was. And in my mind, it almost makes me think that they should have released 3 games in a collection as a trilogy. Right? I think the original trilogy should have been in the collection. That's how they should have done it. It makes more sense if everything is on a 2-minute timer. If they run exactly the same, then it probably just should have been made like that, right? But whatever, they split it up into 2 packages, and then we get into the conundrum that is Pro Skater 4. Pro Skater 4, as you know, there was no more 2-minute runs. It was a more, open zoned thing that encouraged exploration. There were NPCs everywhere to talk to. The game introduced cutscenes. There were, sometimes the missions weren't even skating. Sometimes it was like, hey, lie on your skateboard and go through the cones, like stuff like that. And that's what made 4 so cool to me. Like 4 has such a cool identity because of the way it went about the missions and stuff like that. So when you tell me that they're doing a remake of 3 and 4 in one package, at first you're excited, but then you're kind of like, are they gonna go the extra mile and like, make sure that everything is still the same and everything is still approached the same way? And once I saw that it was a budget title again, I'm like, nah, I don't think they're doing that. And then sure enough, we find out that Pro Skater 4 still is going to have a 2-minute timer, which is insane because those levels are really big. And all the missions are going to be introduced via a list. No NPCs to talk to, no cutscenes, no Ollie the Bum. You know what I mean? And a lot of missions were either scrapped, changed, and that kind of pissed me off, And I'm not going to lie to you, like there was ways that they kind of went about it. Like you could change the timer to go to 60 minutes. You could give yourself an hour to do it, which I did because that is, more close to the source material. But at the same time, when I did it, there was like some kind of condescending message like, oh, you tick this if you can't handle the 2-minute timer. It's like, I'm God damn it. Like I'm literally doing it because these levels are huge and I want a more authentic experience. Stupid game. But the timer really rubbed me the wrong way, and whatever, I gave myself the hour and it was fine, but like I don't know, it just kind of pissed me off. And then you start getting into it a little more, you find out that them turning Zoo and Kona into competition levels. At first it was like, okay, like I don't mind it, it's fine. But then you start thinking, okay, that's fine. But then you think Chicago and the carnival levels are missing completely, right? And once content goes missing, that's when I start thinking that the remake failed. As a remake, I think you failed. I don't think there should be cut content. You either alter the content or you add to the content. You don't cut it. You just don't cut it. So when they do that, it's like the remake failed. The game might be good, but the remake failed. To me, as a remake, this thing failed. And unfortunately, Pro Skater 4 is kind of what takes the brunt of it. In other ways that this thing failed, let's talk about the soundtrack, right? Only 10 tracks across 3 and 4 return. There's 59 total tracks in this game, and only 10 of them return. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, the series in general, especially the early titles, known for their music. There are entire playlists on Spotify dedicated to the soundtracks of Tony Hawk games. A lot of people know music because of Tony Hawk games. I didn't know Superman My Goldfinger, but then I played Tony Hawk and I was like, damn, this song's pretty cool, and that's just became a trend. Tony Hawk and Grand Theft Auto are two series that music is part of the identity. Music is part of the package. You have to get the music right, otherwise, there's a lot of points dinged against it. And to have only 10 tracks across 3 and 4 return, to have 59 total tracks, meaning 49 of them are new songs, that's just insane. Especially when you compare what happened with 1 and 2. 1 and 2, 22 out of the 25 songs came back, and there were 37 new ones. And again, 59 total. I don't know why they aim for 59 every time, but 59 total tracks, 37 new ones, and you almost get back all the old ones. That's fine. That's great. But damn, to only get 10 tracks back from 3 and 4 and have 59 in total, that's insanity, dude. Insanity. I also want to point out that the deluxe edition of the game comes with Doom music. Again, more paywall stuff. That's great. And then one thing that I started to notice with the songs themselves, I don't know if this was like intentional. I think Tony Hawk actually might have spoke about this, that it was, but there might be different, there might be songs missing, but the songs that are added are still from the same bands that have songs missing. So I don't know. That might have been something that was done on purpose and not something that was like, happened because they couldn't make it happen. They couldn't reach a deal. They couldn't get the licensing or whatever it was. Like, maybe this was an intentional thing. And if it was, I'm not a fan, I think if you at least got back all the songs or most of the songs from 3 and 4, and then do what you did in the first game, get all the songs back or most of them, then add new stuff. That's cool. But when you really cut the content here, oh man, God, this game is just heavily weighing on me. I guess what it comes down to, right? It's just censorship. Me and Chris talk about this over on Podcast Fresh. Like, it's censorship. Like, the music itself is heavily censored. There was a song that I was listening to, and they cut the word bastard. I get, like, not saying the F word and stuff like that. Okay, but even bitch appears in a lot of media now. It's like on TV, like in radio played songs. Like, it'll slide. And what, bastard was too much? I don't know. And then, when you look at the missions themselves, they're changed due to censorship. Like I said, no guy taking a leak in Canada. No Ollie the bum because you can't make fun of the homeless. No Daisy because girls with big tits, that's frowned upon now, especially because at the time it was like a womanizing thing, right? Over on the cruise ship level, like now there's missions where you got to do tricks to impress a group of people. Before, back in the day, it was like bikini girls. Now it's pro skaters. These changes are like, it's the censorship of today. That's just how things are now. Like, and I get that. I'm not even saying that it's a bad thing or a good thing. I just think, like, once you start making minute changes that kind of start adding on, it's hard to not notice. And I think, just spin the narrative. Give a reason why this is happening. Don't just replace it in general. I don't know. These kind of things piss me off, and I can go on and on. I'm going to leave it at that. But when you start tampering too much with the identity of something, that's when it loses it. And to me, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4, as fun as it is, as good of a game as it is, and as addicting as it can be, because I still played a lot of it after it came out and after I rolled credits. I went back and I still did some runs. I still wanted to get more out of the game than I already had because it's fun. But as fun as it is, I can confidently say that I think it failed as a remake. It was marketed as a remake. It's a lie. It's more of a reimagining. The Pro Skater 3 portion is less offensive than 4, but 4 is just really offensive if you care about it like that, right? The lack of career mode in 4 in general hurt it so much for me. And then lack of returning music, over censorship. It keeps this game from living up to the remake that it was advertised to be, right? That's what they prided themselves on with the first game. And you just think they're going to do it for the second game, and it was just different. It had different DNA. It was coded different, and from the outside it looked fine, but once you really start digging in, like, you might be disappointed. And with all that in mind, I would give it a final score of 7.5. Because I do think the game is fun, like I said. The game is really fun. It still controls good. It still reminds me of good old Tony Hawk stuff. But, like, when it's, like, if this was a new game, this would be a 9, Maybe an 8.5. But because it's supposed to be a remake, if you're advertising it first and foremost as a remake, as, oh, you remember this? Remember how much you love this? We're bringing it back. You guys failed because you didn't bring back what captured our, love for it in the first place. And if you're coming out swinging with remakes and stuff like that, you better deliver. If you're going to remake Pro Skater 3 and 4, remake Pro Skater 3 and 4. If 4 was too much because of the whole, career mode stuff, why didn't you do a Pro Skater 3 add-on DLC to Pro Skater 1 and 2 and then, start remaking Pro Skater 4 and Underground 2, since those are kind of more similar. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. There was a lot they could have done here, and I think their vision got clouded with something. Money. But yeah. Given the current state of this, do I want them to remake Underground at this point? Man, I don't know, dude. Like, I'm scared. Underground is my favorite one in the series. If they are, heading in that direction, if remaking Underground is the next move, then I want them to spend more time on this. I want them to give it, a bigger budget. I want good voice acting, or at least, comparable voice acting to how it was in the original. And, do it right, because Underground is important. Underground is probably the most important one in the series. So you gotta really do it right to me, or else, man, you guys are gonna get backlash like a mother, and it's not even gonna be funny. And I'm not gonna be there to save you. I'm gonna be part of it for sure. You better do it right, goddammit. One thing I will say, this is a bit of a spoiler. I mean, if you're here this far, who cares? But when you beat the game and you go back, there's new missions to do. And one of the missions in the water park level is get revenge on Eric Sparrow. And Eric Sparrow was the prick that screwed you over in Underground. So to me, it's like, is that the sign that they're remaking it already? Like, is that the hint? Who knows? But one thing I do know, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4, it's fun. It's a good time. Just don't anticipate it being a faithful remake.